Hello and welcome. My name is Brad Kramer, and I am the Director of Public Policy at One Family. Thank you for joining us today for the third of 3 events in One Family's inaugural speaker series. Today's program is called Real Life Journeys to Housing Stability, and will focus on parents' experiences and challenges in the Massachusetts housing market, including the resources that aided their journeys. One Family's mission is to prevent homelessness and promote pathways to economic independence for families in Massachusetts. Our philosophy is that long-term housing stability is built on a foundation of education and career success. Our 3 direct service programs are designed to help the parents we serve reach this goal. In addition to our direct service programs, One Family's public policy advocacy works to promote state and federal policies that will help families with low incomes to avoid homelessness, secure housing, and achieve long-term economic stability. Massachusetts housing costs are staggering. Rents are 50% higher than the national average. The stratospheric cost of housing in Massachusetts is a major factor in growing family homelessness. Our family homeless shelters are overflowing. Our best estimate is that about 40,000 Massachusetts children experience homelessness over the course of a single year. As a state, we're doing far too little to address the housing and family homelessness crisis. There are about 335,000 families in Massachusetts who qualify for long-term housing assistance but receive none. And there are 150,000 families and individuals across Massachusetts on waiting lists to access public housing. Massachusetts needs greater public investment in affordable housing and homelessness prevention, and better tools to crack down on housing discrimination. But also, on an individual level, struggling families deserve support making progress towards self-sufficiency so that they can afford to rent or buy a home. Through today's event, we will hear directly from parents about the challenges they have faced in accessing stable housing in the Commonwealth, as well as inspiring stories of the determination and resourcefulness that helped them get where they are today. Now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce the moderator for today's event, Nakennia Reddrick.
Thank you, Brad, for that kind introduction. I'm honored to be moderating One Family's panel today, which will showcase 2 remarkable women and their journeys to housing stability. As we kick things off, I want to thank Thought Forms, our presenting sponsor for today's event. We are immensely grateful for their support and partnership in this work, and for making today's event possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mark Doty, Thought Forms President.
Thank you, Kenya. My name is Mark Dowdy, and I'm president of Thought Forms, a custom builder based here in the Boston area. We're proud to sponsor One Family's event featuring parents' real-life journeys to career and housing stability. These inspiring people will share their personal stories, both the challenges and successes. We're proud of what they've committed to and accomplished with the support of One Family.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to you all again for joining us for today's event. Our panelists today are alumni of the One Family Scholars Program, which provides scholarships and coaching to single parents with low incomes in college. I myself am a One Family Scholars alumna, graduating from Newberry College in 2008. For me, my degree in criminal justice changed my life. It allowed me to have access to different career opportunities, and also inspired me to continue my education ahead. When I did buy my own home in 2020, it meant so much to me because it allowed my family to live in a safe neighborhood. We also were able to add more pets to our family and access better educational opportunities for the children. Unfortunately, home ownership currently feels very far out of reach for many Massachusetts families. Even market rent can feel unattainable. Fortunately, there are many programs designed to help families access and keep stable housing, including programs like One Family's that help parents achieve their education and career goals, increase their incomes, and thereby consistently afford their housing payments. But the existence of these programs doesn't mean that the fight for housing justice is over. Far from it. And the stories we will hear today from our panelists will help shed light on what progress has been made, as well as the work that is still left to be done. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce panelists Lori and Nakita. All right, hi everyone. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your connection to One Family.
I can go first. So my name is Lori Flaherty, and my connection to One Family is that I was a One Family scholar. I was given the opportunity to be part of One Family and receive a scholarship when I was getting my associate's degree at Mass Bay Community College. And I was able to continue as a scholar throughout my education and upon receiving my bachelor's degree. I currently am just about to get my master's degree, and I received that, or will receive that, from Framingham State University. My major was education. I'm a history major with secondary education, and I live in Marlborough, Massachusetts. I work as a special ed teacher for social studies in Framingham community. And I lived in Marlborough for about 2 years, and we really like it. I was a former resident of Framingham, so I have close ties to that community as I still work there. And I am the mom of 2 children. I have one son in high school and a daughter in elementary school. And currently I am renting a house or townhouse in Marlborough. So I've been here 2 years. I just signed the lease again for another year. So we will be here 3 years next year. And I really like the area. I feel very lucky that I'm able to have housing right now. And I hope to one day actually buy my own house and have something that is my own. So that's all about me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lori.
So my name is Nakita Haywood, and my connection to One Family is that I'm an alum. I found out about the One Family scholar when I decided to go back to school because I was working entry-level jobs, and I wanted to get some professional development. So I applied and was accepted. So I live in the town of Dorchester. I currently rent in Dorchester. I've been living in my apartment in Dorchester for about, it'll be 6 months next week. I was able to obtain my bachelor's degree in human services with a concentration in addiction studies, and I'm pursuing a master's degree in mental health counseling. I have 2 children, one age 13 and one age 10, who live with me. The part of Dorchester that we live in, I'm very comfortable with. I feel very safe. It's very quiet, and yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that Dorchester feel. There's like the Lower Mills area that's really very quiet. And there are more kind of like lively areas like Grove Hall. It's very much alive 24/7.
Right.
I grew up in Dorchester and lived there for about 13 years, the first 13 years of my life, and close to like Lower Mills, but we always sort of called the different areas different parishes by kind of what church was there. And I grew up in St. Mark's Parish, which is on Dorchester Ave, although that's a very long street. So I have a lot of family that still live there, and a lot of really nice places, and a lot of really fun places around there too. And it's always it always made me feel like it was very community-based area, the area that I grew up in too. So that's nice.
Definitely. We all have Dorchester connections. I graduated from the Burke right on, right in the heart of Dorchester, I feel like. All right, let's hop to the next one. Tell us about your experiences with One Family.
So one family, my experience was I had a good experience. And the reason why I say so is because I'm a first generation college student. So a lot of the things when I applied to college, I had no clue about what I was doing. And because I was able to be accepted into the program, I was able to have a coach who coached me through some of the things that I probably wouldn't have benefited from, if that makes sense. So it was a lot of questions that I had to ask that I couldn't ask in the school, because once I got into school, it was like, get your work done, and that was it. But I was able to pull off of my coach, and we had a very good relationship. And my coach was very welcoming, and whatever information that I asked, I was emailed so that way I can print it out and ask more questions, because I couldn't go to family because they didn't have the same experience. So they couldn't guide me. So it was like a guidance as well as I was in school.
So my experiences with One Family have all been very, very positive. And not only did I get a scholarship and have my tuition funded, I also was given a stipend for books and for some living expenses. I also was able to get a stipend for childcare. So I was able to put my daughter in daycare with just having one less thing to sort of worry about financially. So I was started off going to college and taking 1 or 2 classes at a time because I was paying out of pocket. I didn't want to take out any more loans. And my English professor, who I had a second semester, I had her first and second semester. In the second semester, she said that there's this really great scholarship and I could, she would like to nominate me for it. So not only was it a scholarship, but it was financial coaching so I could get my finances in order, coaching experience. My coach was amazing. She was also a history major, so we had that sort of connection. And like Nakita said, just all these questions that I, could sort of go to one place and have them answered. And, I know that I could have gone to certain places in school and had them answered, but they're a little bit more like cut up and separated. So having a coach able to sort of help direct me and guide me was just really invaluable. And some of the benefits of the scholars program, I would not have been able to get through school as quickly as I did without the One Family scholarships. Like I said, they help pay for my books, help pay for tuition, help pay for daycare, got myself into a better financial situation. And I, was able to work at my job, go to school, I have my kids sort of taken care of with daycare. And I don't think that I would have been able to pursue my dreams as quickly as if I didn't have One Family. And being, this is my second career. I'm an older student. I think it was really important to me to be able to get my degree quickly or as quick as possible with as little sort of detriment to my wallet and my finances. And One Family was able to make that happen for me.
Thank you so much for that. I can definitely relate to that. It was helpful to have the financial backing when I was going to school. And the biggest help for me was just hearing motivational words, both from the coaches and also during the retreats from other women that were going through the same things as me, just pushing me ahead, and we're all pushing each other forward. That was really helpful. It was like a wraparound coaching experience for me.
Yeah, and I agree. I think having other people who were in the same sort of situation that I was in, seeing how far they had come, meeting all of these different women and people who were single parents, and a lot of people who, working one job or 2 jobs or more sometimes, and just being able to listen to their stories and become motivated and driven, and listening to different tips that they had were how to get their homework done, and ways that they were able to still be mom and be there for their kids and also be a student and be an employee. And it was just really nice connecting with so many different people from all different sort of walks of life and all different areas, and getting to just feel better and feel empowered and amazed, and um, just getting ideas and help, and knowing that you weren't really alone, that other people, if other people could do this, then like, so can I.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I always say, like, if I didn't have the traditional college experience, I hope that what I had was the traditional one family experience, because it helped me for sure. So I'll keep this going. What has your experience in the Massachusetts housing market been like, and have you faced any challenges in it?
My experiences in the Massachusetts housing market have been very challenging. So I have a past, and I've had evictions on my record, and that was like, not only was I discriminated against sometimes because I believed I was a person of color who wanted to live in a suburban neighborhood, I had to have a credit score of 740. If I had a credit score of 740, I probably would buy a house. I wouldn't be looking to rent. And the past eviction records didn't really help as well, on top of being discriminated against for having a voucher, because some homeowners didn't want to rent because of the voucher. Like once I said I had a voucher. So it was times that, I like to be truthful and honest about me and where I've been and where I've come from and what I've persevered through. But sometimes I would have to leave certain information out. Like as far as me having a voucher, you know, I would look at the apartment in the different areas, and they would tell me the rent and all that stuff. And I wouldn't let them know I had a voucher until a certain point, you know? It's been very, very challenging, on top of costs. Some of the rent in the inner city Boston has been very, very outrageous. And, even with obtaining my degree and trying to go further, it's like the cost of living can be very, very hard, because I've come from a background where I was receiving public assistance. And when I decided to start working and trying to get myself together, I kind of suffered from, like, what they call a cliff effect. It's like I'm not eligible for any um, food stamps or anything. So whatever I work, I have to pay the rent, pay the lights, pay the gas. Now I have to pay for childcare, and then, pay for the necessities that come with the house, because you can't just have a house and just pay for that. You need, necessities. So like the living, it was like, it was very, very difficult and very, very challenging. So I had to weigh all those options. Like, having a Section 8 does help, but when you work, you know what I mean? It's like, it can help and it can be a little bit difficult because you still have to pay so much of your income. The more you make, the more you have to pay out. So then it's hard to save if, they're only giving you a $300 difference, and you got to pay the rest on top of all of that stuff, coming from, a person who's been living on public assistance for a while. Kind of like, you can fall behind real quick.
I
Thank you for
totally
that.
agree with you on the cliff effect, Nakita, and how it affects, you just get a little bit ahead, and then you make too much to be on public assistance, and then you can't really afford, to pay your bills, because you were getting maybe a couple $100 in assistance, and you don't get that anymore, and now your bills are like several $100s more. And I've had the same experience with that in regards to health insurance. But my experience with the Massachusetts housing market is that it's just, I feel like I'm very lucky to live where I do. I don't currently have a Section 8 voucher, but I'm able to afford the rent. My landlord has been extremely generous with the rent and sort of rent control. But I was on waiting list for Section 8 for 7 years. And was unable to sort of afford my own place to live. I lived with family members. And so just being in desperate need of like a housing certificate, and not being able to afford it, and then having to wait that long. And, I always say that I'm so much luckier than so many other people because I had an option of places to go. I had family that I can go with. It was certainly not ideal and not something that I wanted to do, but I did have that to fall back on while I waited. And you know, there are people who are still waiting for housing vouchers even more than 7 years. You know, I was figuring there would be a wait, maybe a couple months or a year, but as the years kept going by and I kept sort of reapplying and making sure I was on the list and, you know, did you forget about me? And they're like, nope, you're still on the list. And, you know, never really getting it until I had sort of housing already by that point. So it's extremely expensive to live in Massachusetts, and I don't think that's a secret from anybody. I work in the Metro West. I work in Framingham. I'm lucky to live very, very close by, but it's the housing. The owning my own house is looking like it's getting out of reach, and it's so expensive to rent that it's very difficult to save for a down payment. There's not a lot of availability in general, and there's not a lot of availability that's affordable for anybody. And then, like Nakita said, once you know, have public assistance and then you start making money, they take that public assistance away. And I was, you know, having my health insurance on Mass Health, and now I have to buy it, and that's 400, like almost $500 a month that I have to pay out of pocket now for health insurance. So that's not going to my savings. It's not going to allow me to, you know, move anytime soon. And again, I'm very lucky that I'm in the situation that I'm in, but I know that there are a lot of people out there that are not as lucky as I am. And, you know, their credit now is going by the wayside, and you need good credit to rent and to buy. And, you know, now you have all these other bills like medical bills, or food is getting so expensive that it's just becoming harder and harder to live near your work, to rent something that's reasonable, or to try and save money to buy something that's reasonable.
Thank you for that. It's definitely very expensive to live in Massachusetts and rent. I feel like when you own a home, at the very least, the amount that you're paying is locked in for your housing, and it doesn't, you know, increase. In your space is your space. But again, there's also the balancing of finances that comes into play, and the changes in that you're paying more towards your housing than you probably paid in the past. So I can relate to that. And I definitely get a little sweaty even thinking about every time I had to shift or move or figure out, you know, how to afford things. It's definitely not easy. I know that you're both members of One Family's advocacy team, and Nakita, you specifically have even provided legislative testimony about your experiences with housing discrimination. Can you share what that experience was like and what you testified about?
Sure. So I gave a testimony in regards to my experiences with the housing discrimination in Massachusetts and what it was like and what it felt like. When I gave testimony, that testimony that I gave was like my experience to like let people know, or let the legislative people know, like what it was like as a Massachusetts resident seeking housing and experiencing discrimination. So when I testified, I was hoping that I testified to the point where it touched them in some way, because I was testifying about my experience, because I wanted them to hear my story of what I actually went through and feel what it was like as I gave the testimony. So it was exciting. At the same time, it felt rewarding afterwards, because I felt like I was holding the torch to advocate for those who were being discriminated against because they may have had a Section 8, or, you know, they was a person of color, or whatever they were discriminated against. Because you could be discriminated against because of the job that you work or something like that. So yeah, it was challenging at some points, because I had to relive those experiences that were not so good, but rewarding when I was done.
Thank you. So in the context of this especially challenging housing market in our state, I'd also love to hear about your housing successes. What have you accomplished on your housing journey so far?
So for me, I was living in an apartment that was like below standards of what anyone should be living in any city in Massachusetts that has a Section 8. So I had like the community violence at that point, I couldn't really help. So my kids was exposed to a lot of trauma within the community violence on top of like we had an infestation of like rats and all of that stuff. What I was able to do was advocate for myself when I found the new place, which I'm living in now for the last 6 months, and advocate to the owner and say, look, I will keep it clean. I will do this. I will do that. I know I have a past and that may look scary on black and white, but that's who I was this then. And this is who I am today. And I have people that will back me up in it. And then he decided to give it to me. So that was a success, because your peace is your peace. So that's a success in itself, to just be able to have peace and quiet, and not music every night, all year long. Snow didn't matter. Hearing the kids hearing gunshots. A 10-year-old and a 13-year-old shouldn't know the difference between fireworks and gunshots. So my success is that I moved to a better part of Dorchester and we have a lot of peace and quiet. And I can actually be on any meeting from home or Zoom call or take classes now for school from home and it be quiet so that way I can think and the people don't hear my background and it's not my household. So that's a success. One family supported me still, even though I was an alum, they supported me throughout my journey of looking for, adequate housing and affordable housing or what I can afford. You know what I mean? They really did help me, and they connected me with some of the one family alum and the people who is still, one family scholars with, just encouraging me and sharing their experiences with me as well to keep me going. Because sometimes, every door is slammed when you're trying to look for good housing, right? And quiet, and you want to live in certain neighborhoods. And sometimes your encouragement from others, you get a little down, but your encouragement that you have on your team can be helpful,
Definitely, I can understand and relate to that. I've had loud, crazy neighbors. I used to live off of Blue Hill Avenue on Devon Street. I know the noise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you found better housing and that you're happy and have that weight sort of lifted off you, Nakita.
Thank you.
As a parent, I definitely can empathize. Just having that stress of, are my kids safe and just all the noise levels. I'm dealing with very noisy neighbors all the time now, but it's slightly different. They're just very loud. There's not a lot of, trauma and violence around it as well. So I'm glad that you're in a place that you like better. And I really like what you said that, you said it's like scary on black and white. And I think we're so much more than just what's on paper or just what's written about us. And that's part of a huge problem with the housing market is, you're looking at just, what somebody decides to list or needs to list about themselves. And we're all just a lot more than that. They don't see hard work. They don't see all the successes, all the things we've done. And that makes it very challenging. And there's a lot of discrimination that comes in there as well. One of my successes, and just to sort of echo Nakita, is just, again, having a house, having a place to live, having a roof over my head. There's space here for my kids. It's small, but everyone has it's set up nicely where everyone has like their own little place to go. I kind of did it on my own. And that was, I think, the biggest thing for me. I wasn't living with family anymore. I was able to sort of move out, get my kids someplace that, again, and is it my dream home? No, but it's a home, and that was a dream. So, I think just, again, one family giving me the opportunity to have scholarships and, be able to save money by not having to pay for my education, by not having to pay full price for daycare, coaching me to get my finances in better order, telling me, where to look for housing, all of those things. It's not really just one thing, it's just a lot and a little bit of everything, that one family has provided. And, some things I didn't even think about or realize until afterwards, like how many different things affect your housing and what you do. And, credit score is certainly one, having an eviction notice, is, follows you around for a long time, and you can feel like you're overcome and accomplished so much more, but then that kind of comes up, and it's just like a little black dot that sort of follows you around, and it becomes very unfair because a lot of times there's circumstances that are beyond our control. So again, I just think for my success, having a roof over my head and my kids' heads, having their own little space instead of having to share space and be cramped, and getting here I say on my own, and that's not really true. It's I had a lot of help from a lot of people, and one family, and the scholars at one family, and the coaches, and the people around me helped me get here. And again, I'm very lucky because not everybody has that.
I can agree. My coach definitely helped me, and I remember her telling me that life is like climbing a ladder. Like, you know that there's a top of the ladder and you're supposed to climb up there, and some people climb really quickly, and sometimes you have to go back down and you get the endurance to climb up a few steps and you go, like, sometimes you're at the same step for quite some time trying to figure out how to get up, but you just have to keep moving if your goal is to get to the top. And just this tiniest amount of advice sometimes just helped me keep moving forward. I feel like I'm speaking out of a Disney movie. So I'll move on to the next one. Reflecting back on the last few years, how have you been moving toward your goals of stable housing and or home ownership?
So been moving towards my goals of stable housing and home ownership is just getting my finances in order. And again, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. I'm getting my finances in order, figuring out how to pay off debt, figuring out how to not incur more debt, getting my education. I worked in the dental industry for a really long time before I went into education, and I had sort of plateaued. I wasn't going to go anywhere else. I wasn't going to make much more money, and it wasn't something that I really wanted to do. So getting an education, knowing that, I would be employable. It's nice in an education position is that we have a contract and our pay goes up a little bit each year. So that's, I'm always getting a slight sort of raise, although costs go up as well. But just having my career in place, doing something that I really like doing, getting my finances in order, paying off old bills, old student loans. I've been saving or trying to save money, and it's been somewhat successful. There's always seems to be some sort of roadblock, like cars needing brakes or other things that come up. And, those things used to put me into debt, and now they don't. It dwindles my savings much more than I would like, and I would wish I had more in savings, but having like a hiccup, I had to buy a new car, so I was able to do that, and it did take away some of my savings, but I actually have savings, and I'm able to sort of fix things as they break without worrying about, oh, what am I going to have to choose this month? Is it going to be food? Is it going to be gas? Is it going to be fixing my car? I can sort of deal with problems as they come. So that homeownership piece is slowly getting there, and I keep slowly trying to put more money in for a down payment. But it's just been, getting an education and setting myself up for what's going to happen in the future.
So me reflecting back on the last few years, when I look back at it, like some of the goals that I had was to, get into grad school, which I was able to do. I obtained my bachelor's degree, which was hard to do, but it was done, and possibly go for a PhD in psychology. So I've been working towards those accomplishments and like building my career because my plan is to have my own someday, right? But I'm I'm slowly getting towards there. I haven't been able to save as much because as I moved up in my job, I got my pay raised, and then my rent just went so sky high that I had to like everything is like depleted for housing living costs. Um, so I'm looking to continue on my career journey and just keep working towards those goals so that way I can save for a larger purchase as like my own home.
And so where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
See myself in 5 to 10 years owning my own company uh, that specifically deals with women and substance abuse. There's a lot of substance abuse places in the state of Massachusetts, but with what I want to do, I want to reach the communities that are not being met, such as the people who have issues. They have barriers because of language. So, like the Hispanic communities, the Portuguese communities that, you know, um, it may be hard for them to seek out treatment because they don't have facilities that can accommodate them and meet their needs and their goals for treatment, such as the deaf people, who are deaf. So I want to open up a business within that range that hits the population, not the other facilities don't hit. So I see myself doing that in the next 5 to 10 years, having that company that, deals with that population of people, still substance abuse, but people who may have other disabilities, you know.
Definitely, that is honorable and very necessary.
Thank you.
Yes, that's amazing, Nakita. I work with special education students, and a large population of my school is non-native English speakers. And I see firsthand all the time how there's not a lot of services for those groups of people that, that don't really know how to navigate, certain places because there's a barrier of language or, maybe understanding or comprehension, like you said, deaf community. And so that's amazing that you're focusing in on the specific groups of people like that. So as far as myself and my career, I still want to be teaching. I would like to be able to mentor teachers, new teachers that are coming. There is definitely a need for teachers, especially teachers in special education. The school district that I work in has a lot of non-native language speakers, and we are in desperate need of teachers all over the place, but especially teachers that focus on special needs students, students whose first language is not English. So I would like to sort of be a mentor to teachers and get more amazing individuals into those specific sort of trajectories for education and becoming teachers. I would like to get my second master's degree, specifically focused on special education. And as far as my family, I'd like us all to, have the American dream and have our own house, something to call our own, that I can leave to my children, when I go. And I think that's, the American dream. It allows, you know, future generations to start with the leg up, in you know, real estate and owning property and homes is one of the biggest indicators of wealth and how successful somebody in the next generation will be. So I hope to own my own home that my kids want to come back to and bring their kids to, and that, you know, when the time comes, I will leave it to them in order that they can, you know, start out a little bit easier with home ownership and being successful in life. So that's sort of my probably closer to 10-year plan than 5-year plan, but you know, each step counts and each step matters. So
Absolutely. Every step matters. You're always moving towards your own success. And I feel like you dipped into this next question just a little bit. All of you talked about owning a home in the future. What will home ownership mean to you?
to me, it will mean, you know, it's kind of like getting a car or something. It means freedom. You know, like I said earlier, my landlord is very great. They've been very generous. I do sort of a lot around the house. There's been problems, and you know, they've been very aware of the fact that I take care of these problems, and they've been very generous to me. So that's very lucky. But there's still also that I'm beholden to somebody else. If they decide they want to raise their rent, they can do that. If they decide, you know, they don't want me living here anymore, like, you know, right now we have a very good relationship. But I've been, you know, in places where they give me my notice and I have to move out. And I don't want to have to deal with that. I want to be able to decide, you know, that I'm going to stay in my home, and even little things like paint color, and it seems so small and not important sometimes, but you know, I really enjoy the place where I'm at, and I feel very appreciative, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I would do something different, and it feels like my home, but at the same time it's not, it doesn't feel like my home. So, you know, I want my kids to be able to say, like, you know, have little height charts on the wall that will be there for a long time. And so that's kind of what it means to me. Freedom, to just sort of make my own decisions, to not have that thought in the back of my head where like, this could end at any time. You know, something could happen. You know, not have to worry about nosy neighbors necessarily that are right next door to me or above me. And so that's what it means to me.
Thank you for that. And I will agree with you. Wall color matters. Okay. It matters. It's a game changer.
Yes, this is not what I want.
Exactly. Like being able to change it up, it so matters. Being able to change your room or rip everything out of a space and, you know, remake it all to what your design is, that really matters. It really does, you know, create a motivation in your soul to come home every day. And, you know, it makes you feel really different. You may still have nosy neighbors though.
Yeah. Well, you can only help so much. So
no, I know.
So home ownership, what it means to me, I think it's gonna be more room. I won't feel like stuck. I feel like a little more free. If I want to go in my yard, I don't have to share that space. You know, that may be little to some, but that's big to me. You know, being able to do things differently, you know, don't have to worry about if I have family from out of country that come in that I might feel like I'm violating if they stay for a week or two. You know what I mean? Because I'm on Section 8. Yeah, just freedom. I think it would be freedom for me because I'll have more room to do what I want to do. If I want to do my basement over and it be my little area, then it'll be my basement in my area. So a lot more freedom will come with it, a lot more space, a lot more freedom. And I won't have to report every single thing I do to a landlord or Boston Housing Authority.
Right. That makes sense in terms of like freedom. You don't have to report your income or, if you are having another child, or if, you know, maybe an adult friend is going to come stay, or a family member is going to need to stay with you for a few months because of their housing situation. So it allows you to support your family in different ways.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you both. This has been great.
Yeah, I feel very good. I think it's important to put faces to stories a lot, and, you know, just see how many people the housing issue affects, and how many different things, you know, not having housing sort of affect. Everything's connected, and it's nice to be able to explain why and how, and just put faces to stories. I think it makes it a lot more personable and personal, and um, you know, makes people see, like Nakita said, I love that, more than just like the black and white, you know, more than just what's on paper, or, you know, what we think we know about somebody or something.
Thank you for that. So just kind of in summation, I think that I heard a lot of support, that One Family Scholars has given us all support and connected us all with resources to help us through those challenging times when we're trying to increase our education, connect with housing, connect with childcare, kind of navigate the world, if you will. And we continue to utilize those resources even as alumni. And we continue to help One Family by being a part of the advocacy efforts. And we all have those goals of supporting our children in the future. We want them to go to college. We want to make sure that we have good and stable housing and we live in safe neighborhoods. I feel like that's all a theme that we share as we go throughout this. And I certainly believe that our lives are in better shape after having dealt with One Family.
I
Thoughts,
agree.
ideas? Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was the third event in the series. You can find a link to watch the others on One Family's YouTube channel. For more information on One Family's work, please visit their website at www.onefamilyinc.org. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you to our panelists.
Thank you so much for having us. It was wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Nakita.